Not the normal setup today because I'm on vacation and today's video actually pulled me out of it for just this video. Wizards of the Coast, as you can see, put out a survey regarding MTGxSpiderman, and the reaction to it from the community has been absolutely insane. And the reason I say that is usually things are pretty hostile on like Magic Twitter and everything. It's just the environment for it. But the fact that a lot of these responses and these feelings actually went onto Magic Blue Sky, that's when I kind of figured, yeah, this was kind of going insane, and it evolved all throughout the night to the point where even Blake this morning actually provided a response. And so, yeah, I'm coming out of vacation just to kind of do this video because I think there's a lot to take in about how Wizards of the Coast is taking data, how they may or may not be using it, and ultimately whether or not I feel it's Wizards of the Coast doing it, whether it's a Hasbro initiative, there's a lot to take in terms of our upcoming sets next year. The metrics for success, what it means for a set to actually do well versus, universes beyond, universes within, and what Wizards of the Coast might be looking for. Because there's some things we know, as per recent things that came out, even with the MTG Weekly on Tuesday, that could actually lead to some of our conclusions here. So first, we start from a survey from MTGxSpiderman. Now, as of the recording of this video, I actually can't click into it because I believe the survey was taken down. A lot of people were talking about how they could get back in, they could complete it, all this type of stuff. I still can't get in. This, again, is not my usual setup here. I'm on my wife's gaming laptop, and so hopefully the audio and everything isn't too bad. But with this survey, as you can even see from Ryan Nicholas down here, it's starting to get a little weird, right? This is extremely distasteful, but we're going to get to that in a second. So firstly, we had some weird questions here where, I have more money to spend on cards. What does that mean, right? Like, the state of the world, we're all expecting, especially the Western side of the world, to crash a little bit, potentially getting worse. Again, I'm no financial expert, don't take my words with a grain of salt, but we're either deep in or heading towards a worse recession. People are having a harder time spending money on cards, and more people are proxying, with Commander being the most popular format out there. I myself have proxied much, if not 90% of my Commander product. I actually am selling out of the final bits of my Commander product to continue to purchase into Legacy. Like, unironically, I want to build some affinity both in Modern and Legacy, and I think I'm at the point with the metagame and the cards available where I can even do both. So I'm really excited to do that. And with that, like, that's my Commander collection then kind of transforming into that. It's the whole idea of buying singles or whatnot. But I don't, like, I'm privileged to be in a state to have money to spend on cards, but I think this answer is going to this question is going to frustrate a lot of people, because cards are not only getting more expensive, but product is getting more expensive. So people aren't opening product to increase the pool of singles available. So buying singles is a very weird, circular thing, right? Like, in order to buy singles, you need to have people buy product to increase that pool. But if people aren't buying product, how are you buying singles at an affordable price? And people are then having to proxy. Certain formats out there, obviously, like Paper Legacy, you have something like CDH, all are relatively proxy friendly, or 90% of them are, as far as I'm aware, except for maybe bigger tournaments like Eternal Weekend, and heck, even then CDH is likely, depending on the TO and everything, just going to be proxy friendly. So Magic is kind of approaching that way with some of the more popular ways to play it, and even some of the more older classical ways to play it. So having more money to spend on cards, maybe people over the age of 30 with jobs and families and better financing, I don't know, that are out of school and aren't in some type of starting career, I guess they have more money. But even then, weird question. But where it really popped off was the kind of Trinket Mage's message here, tweet here, talking about, to what degree did negative influencer commentary impact your perception of Magic the Gathering Marvel's Spider-Man before the set release? To what degree did negative influencer commentary impact your perceptions of Spider-Man? So folks, this is asking, how did you feel about Spider-Man after and or potentially engaging with people like myself that provided negative commentary on Spider-Man, whether it's because it was a small set that was pushed into a bigger one. Maybe you're thinking of someone like LSV and the Limited Resources podcast that really quickly did their sunsetting episode of the set because they didn't pick 2 draft. To what degree did things like this affect your perception of Magic the Gathering? And I think a lot of you may have a couple of reactions really watching this. This was the big question that blew up a lot of people's kind of responses, because what this is essentially asking, right? Like in a surveyed way, like why like it's blaming the commentaries and it's blaming the people that are most passionate about your game. Because even the next bit here, right? Like, so I go into this. Ryan Nicholas Tron is bad actually responded. He had the same image and he's like, this question is in bad taste, and then responded below because the very next question, you're going to see this in many tweets, if you kind of look into this, is you have indicated that you have seen and engaged with content made by influencers, YouTubers, streamers, etc. about Magic the Gathering, Marvel, Spider-Man. So after they asking you, how much did negative commentary affect that? Not positive, just negative commentary. They then ask, hey, you've watched a couple of these streamers. Please specify the names of these influencers. Folks, they're making a hit list. Wizards of the Coast, in their data-driven survey to try and improve the quality of product, has asked us to make a hit list, right? The question is right after each other. It's not asking, oh, name the negative influencers, but it's asking you how much did negative influencers impact that? And oh, you watched influencers in general, name them. It's correlated, right? You mentally, you're going to go to that. I hope you understand that it's correlated. Wizards of the Coast intentionally wants you to make a hit list of creators that potentially they don't want to bother working with. And now this goes into the whole idea of the MTG Ambassador Program, which y'all have known that I have been a part of. I come in and out of being a part of actively because I make a lot of content for Wizards of the Coast. I'm a relatively big creator. I think I can say that pretty confidently. And I do provide a lot of negative commentary on that. I call it criticism because there are valid problems in the community right now, such as the MTG Secret Lair issue with the print-to-demand model and all that stuff, or the lack thereof. The whole ideas of kind of pushing commander design versus supporting 1v1 competitive. The lack of support in South America, like all this type of stuff, right? Like there's all these things that are worth bringing up and continuing to be a champion of. But all of a sudden it's negative influencer commentary. Let me know in the comment section down below, if you're this far in the video, how much of my commentary do you feel like has influenced your opinion, or do you feel like you can engage with this material and understand that it's bad yourself? Do you feel like my opinion has swayed you, or do you feel like it's maybe just more so solidified a stance that you have already had, or potentially provided some counterpoints to the opposite of the opinion you have? Maybe you do enjoy some of this stuff and it's helpful to you to be able to engage with people that maybe had the opposite opinion and understand where the other side is coming from. How do you feel? Let me know in the comment section down below, because it feels like when you're creating this type of hit list for people to not work with, it kind of just says, hey, don't say anything bad about Wizards of the Coast, or you're just not going to be getting any product whatsoever. And at the end of the day, that's not why I started making all this stuff, right? Like the product is great. Working with Wizards of the Coast is great. I want to work with even like the Magic Online team and the Magic Arena team to help like push more 1v1 Magic, right? And like a lot of people have their opinions on Magic Arena versus Magic Online versus paper. But at the end of the day, even though I'm a Commander player, I do also play a lot of 1v1 Constructed, and I would love to push that even more. So I, myself, am working towards those initiatives. Those are the type of collaborations that I seek to do. The product, again, is nice, but it really sucks that potentially we're creating a hit list of people to maybe watch out for. Because even with the Universes Beyond product, we saw online that notoriously for the Spider-Man Secret Lair or the Spider-Man product, and likely with the Marvel product coming up next year, and potentially with some of the other IP collaborations, maybe with Star Trek, we might see a reduced ambassador list, because people are going to be, the organizations in charge of those IPs, Marvel, Disney, are going to be very selective as to who they want. I'm not going to be picked to be an ambassador straight up for, the Marvel set coming up. Maybe I do. Maybe that changes. But right now, I can confidently say I have not been contacted to be a ambassador or any partner to make any content as of the recording of this video for that Marvel product coming up next year. And because of the negative influencer media that I kind of push forward, I will probably likely not be contacted for that, because this is the exact type of way that they get this data and they find people to like shove off. This is going to be the Saffron Olives of the world. Maybe one person mentions me. I don't know who are some other big negative influencer. Are they going to start bringing up Brian Kibler because he recently made like 2 videos in the last 2 months about Standard or something? Like the internet sphere and how people get frustrated with certain creators is like so easy. Like for some reason, like I've seen in Twitter comments how like, oh yeah, people like Saffron Olive are like ruining the game because all they do is like complain. Like he's one of the greatest bastions of positivity in this game, right? People are going to probably mention Tolarian Community College, like they're going to mention, Pleasant Kenobi, like all these people. these are people that are not only the biggest creators, which I guess says something about negative influencer marketing and how, hating pays, but also they provide the greatest variety, not only in their commentary, but especially if you look at people like Saffron Olive and someone like Tellurian Community College, the gameplay and also the content in general that goes up on their channels are really varied. It's not negative influencer commentary. They have, again, a lot of gameplay, a lot of highly edited, high quality videos. They have a lot of variety. So they're actually doing a lot to push not only, budget options in games, ways to play different formats, but also commentary on how to approach Magic in different ways. I mean, the prof just did a video the other day on, $30 vintage, a way to approach a very affordable, cheap format, and has always been pushing Pauper for so many years. Why is he considered negative influencer commentary? Like, that's criticism. That's valid criticism alongside a lot of positive content. So, and again, like, just following after the question of that is absolutely wild. And Saffron Olive even responded to my thing here. He says, funny, I don't remember them asking how much influencers' positive responses to Final Fantasy impacted people's perception of that set. Notably, $2 million in one day, very successful Magic set. How did that impact it? And there was a lot of kind of varied responses in the comments. It seems like some people actually did get that asked for previous sets, and some people didn't. So there potentially is some type of randomization in the questions, and or based on your responses to certain options, you actually get certain questions, and that might actually have some more credence to it based on some things that we're going to see later down the line here. But again, it seems to be that these questions likely were asked previously, and in this specific questionnaire regarding MTGxSpiderman, this was not asked. This was not part of the pool of questions, which is really wild, knowing that there was an ask for positivity, there was a call to work with creators, which is great. But then, even if you ask for a negative influencer commentary, it's one thing to ask for that, but also ask for that and not ask about the positive influencer commentary, and maybe help point those out, because it really, again, directs that question, doubling down on the idea that when you ask them to list the influencers that they watch, if you only ask for the negative influencers, not only are people only going to be thinking into that, but Wizards of the Coast can only take that data that way. Of course, then you could argue that based on Blake's response here, that they might be only looking at it from a positive angle, because Blake, after this kind of blew up, had a chance to respond to this, like literally like 2 hours before recording this and everything. We have, hey everyone, it's been a while since I've weighed in on something here, but since the influencer team reports up to me, let's talk about this question, the negative influencer thing. So if we kind of pop down here, first of all, we don't and won't punish creators for having negative opinions of a set, even very negative. We just don't do that. I'd like to think our history of working with creators who have had varying opinions on Magic, various sets, and Wizards of the Coast speaks to that. And I think that's fair. Like, Wizards of the Coast has worked with a variety of creators, but also some of those creators that are bigger and more critical, they work with because they are the bigger ones. Working with Pleasant Kenobi, working with Tellurian Community College, they do work with folks like me, but I find that a vast majority of the people on the ambassador list that I actively work with don't actually post any negative commentary whatsoever. They might just be commander streamers and people that just focus on the 100 card side of the game and don't actually have any time to put in any thought in criticism. The way they engage with the game is very surface level in that matter, or they partner with Wizards in a certain matter, and they don't actually want to lose any of those kind of partnerships or lose any of that product that they're working with. So there's stuff like that. Second, while we always ask about creator influence, the focus on negative commentary is unusual and not great. We'll be talking about that internally. Magic creators are awesome and they mean so much to Magic. This question gave the opposite impression. That sucks. Some people have pointed out the question doesn't even make a ton of sense, since negative commentary can't really greatly improve perception. Unless you're really contrarian, which fair. So my guess is some error was made along the way, and I'm looking into it. And this is why data acquisition and how we interpret that data is so important. The way countries do censuses and everything, like how we go about our policies and how we engage in data is really important. A famous example of this, and it may not be directly related here, but highlighting how stuff like this is important, is I believe it was with World War II specifically. But you had folks making changes to World War II planes coming back with a bunch of bullet holes in them. Here's the problem, though. if a plane comes back, it means it survived the raid or whatever part of that war, based on like the bullet holes in them, right? That means that, the people should not be armoring up those places where they were shot on the planes that were coming back, because that's what they were doing. They were like, oh, this plane survived. They're getting hit a lot here. We want to kind of prevent that. So we're going to armor up those places where they're being shot down. The problem is you want to actually armor up the exact opposite, because the planes that aren't coming back are actually being shot elsewhere, likely, and they need to be armored up there. And so that's an idea of how we can take, sampling of certain data and misunderstand what's actually going on. And so this is why, this is such a smaller version of that, but it goes to show how when you are able to ask the right question, or you're asking the wrong question, or just asking the wrong way, like your data changes, your outcome changes, what you gain from that changes. And Blake takes this data and the influencer team reports to him, but ultimately that reporting goes up to somewhere as well. It makes its way up the chain to Hasbro, or they work on a separate group of metrics to report. Maybe they look into these influencers, they look at the videos that they're making recently and what they're actually providing to the Magic community. And so we want to make sure we're directing the work of Wizards of the Coast and ultimately the shareholders up at Hasbro the right way. And when we're skewing our questions this way, it's important to recognize the importance of why that's not ultimately going to be such a great idea for our creator community, the people that are most passionate about the game. In short, it's not a good question, but in no way are the results of this particular question going to be used as a lever to attack creator or change our creator strategy. Surveys are taken holistically, and your voices are heard loud and clear. So it looks like all the negative commentary actually worked. We did get a look at this change. The problem is a lot of people did already respond to this survey, whether positively or negatively or as a meme, whatever it is. A lot of people did respond to this survey. And so the data is already out there. How they use it is up to them. A lot of people are talking about, the way they skew their responses. Part of the questions were actually like, how much have you played Yu-Gi-Oh recently? Pokemon, Lorcana, Fab TCG. And people are like putting down like, oh, I played them a lot. I bought everything. And then for Magic, they're like, I might have seen it. Something like that. So you have all these type of varied responses. So it's going to be a really scuffed survey. The data that we're going to get from it is going to be, a little problematic. But ultimately, it just feels like, as Phil Nguyen here says, the MTG survey is giving big the mob one energy, which is kind of nice. But where you get some problems, and where I want to kind of land off on this and provide my closing thoughts, is, you had this situation where if you put down certain responses, you were actually booted out of the survey. So this is what happened with Tajuridan, and also saw a couple other people. I saw this with Jake Beardsley. And it says MTGO isn't an option to play Magic the Gathering, because they say, which versions of Magic the Gathering have you played? Physical or Magic Arena? Magic Online is not even mentioned here, which is absolutely wild, because I feel like a good portion of the Magic player base, maybe it's not like a majority or whatever, maybe it's not more than Magic Arena, are actually engaging with Magic Online in those ways to play. The challenges, the people in leagues and all that stuff. The amount of people playing Magic Online has to be statistically significant, right? To at least ask here. And I said I was unfamiliar with Spider-Man, and I'm familiar because, he's familiar with through the Omen Pats as a primary online player, and my survey got disqualified. And so, again, the data here is skewed, right? Like, you're immediately disqualifying people, so you're only going after the people that are, specifically familiar with Spider-Man, because you're trying to get data on Spider-Man. But the data from people that aren't familiar with Spider-Man are also very relevant as well, right? This is skewing your samples. So what is the ultimate purpose of something like this? These are questions that are worth asking. I ultimately don't know the answer to this, and I'm just kind of highlighting the big conspiracy as to what happened. But this is kind of like the biggest problem that we have with this survey and with surveys like this. We should look to maybe improve some of the sampling that we have and kind of turn off some of the questions, or maybe have them be more open, because again, it seems like not only are people shut off from answering the rest of our survey based on some of the questions you ask, but it even seems like some questions aren't even received, like with the Final Fantasy situation, where some people were asked, what is the positive influencer kind of sphere? How is that affecting your perception of Final Fantasy? But some people weren't asked that question. So again, is it randomized? Based on how you answer certain questions, do you get certain other questions? The survey is unclear. The way we get to this is very in the air and vague at this moment. But the fact that they're asking about negative influencer commentary is very telling. It's very telling that this was a conscious decision. This was a decision made genuinely with malice, in my opinion. There's no other way this could be perceived, because you're trying to create a hit list. You're trying to understand that, how Spider-Man failed, right? It didn't do well as a set, and how much of that was actually negative influence or commentary, and asking people like, hey, it's not our fault. We're out of touch. It's actually the Magic creators' fault. It's actually y'all. It's your fault you don't like Magic the Gathering. Let's blame the people that are most passionate about the game. Let's blame the people like me who are playing like 5 to 6 plus formats legitimately. The money that I sink into Magic Arena, like I buy, the pre-order for every set. I play my dailies. I engage actively. I get in the ladder. I play some Timeless, some Pioneer, some Standard. I play all that. I just don't play any Brawl on Magic Arena and on Magic Online. I'm playing Modern. I'm playing Pauper. I'm playing Legacy. In Paper, I'm playing a little bit of that, but a lot of Commander as well. Like, I'm engaging with Magic actively. Even though I may not be buying Commander singles, like, I'm engaging in the economy. I'm purchasing stuff on Magic Arena. Thankfully, on Magic Online, I have a creator account, but still, there is some level of paying into some things if I'm looking into going into extra events on my like original account. Even in Paper, to play Commander, you need to engage in the secondary market of sleeves and deck boxes. And even when it comes to Paper play, like I do need to still update my Legacy deck. I need to update my Modern Mill deck. I'm still engaging in this game, and so I am being kind of I am being not rewarded for that because I'm providing some criticism. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Ultimately, this is how I feel about like what's going on, and I really wanted to highlight this. Again, coming out of a little bit of vacation with this like scuffed kind of view of all this, but this just feels like a wild kind of overreaction on Wizards of the Coast part. Like they really thought it would sneak in under, and again, the fact that it made its way on a Magic Blue Sky was really telling that like something was going on. Sound off in the comment section down below. This is a wild moment for Magic the Gathering X Spider-Man.